Hi everyone, welcome to the sprint session of PD in Your PJs. I'm Angela with Seesaw. You can find me on Twitter at Mrs. Gadke, but we don't have a lot of time today. We have an amazing presenter with us here today. Tara Martin is with us, and she is going to talk about all about her book snaps that she really created and really is the founder of this movement all over the world. So she is a K-8 curriculum facilitator in Kansas. You can find her on Twitter. She would love to connect with you. She is a passionate educator, again, the BookSnaps founder, blogger, speaker, really focusing on innovators mindset with all the classrooms and different audiences that she works with in her role. So I'm very excited to have her with us here today for this sprint session of PD in Your PJs. And I'm going to hand over the presentation to Tara, and she is going to show us all about BookSnaps. And if you're not familiar with BookSnaps, it's really just an amazing way to engage your students with connecting with text from any different grade level. So I know she's going to go over all of that, and I'm just excited for her to be with us here today. I'm seeing your screen, so we're looking good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. We're just going to dive right in with BookSnaps and Seesaw. Like Angela said, it is just another way to connect to text. I consider it a way to connect to text in the 21st century. I think it's important that we meet the students where they are. They are natives to technology, so why not meet them where they're at? BookSnaps, as it relates to literacy, is just a fantastic way. Anytime we're connecting, allowing students to personally connect to text, we're increasing their comprehension. I love BookSnaps because it's annotating and sharing excerpts of any reading material, and it works at all grade levels, whether you're a kindergartner or you're in college. I know students from all over that are using Seesaw as their modality for representing their book snaps. It's a fantastic way for digital imagery, and our students today are all about using emojis and sharing their imagery, the picture that's in their mind when they're reading via emojis and text. So BookSnaps is also proven, and we don't have enough time to go through it today, to increase memory recall. It has neuroscience that goes right along with the literacy comprehension neuroscience to support why it works. But anytime a student is personally connecting to the text and they're creating an image based off of their connection, the likelihood of them remembering what happened during that piece of the excerpt of the book or the text is highly likely. It's much more likely than if it were just reading it. So I don't recommend that they book snap every single page. However, when they book snap, and I found this to be true for myself, you remember that piece, you remember that scene. So we're going to explore book snaps. I'm actually going to use a friend of mine, Rick Jetter. He wrote this ages fourth grade through 8th grade novel called The Isolate. It's about a little guy with autism, and we're going to share just an excerpt of this book. So basically in Seesaw, you're going to go to the apps. You're going to choose the photo app, which the arrow is pointing right there. And this is the app you would choose to add a photo if it was on your camera roll, or to take a picture, either way. So for this option, I actually took a picture of the text. And then from here, you're going to choose the T at the bottom and start typing in your text. So I typed in, Cameron suddenly felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He clutched his red duffel bag a little tighter, unable to shake off the sense of unease. I always try to remind students to add the title of the book, which is The Isolate Inn, and then also credit the author. I think this is really important when we're pulling pieces of the text. Any grade levels above kindergarten, I mean, it's kind of hard for kindergarten, but most grade levels can add the title of the text and the author's name. I think that's super important to teach students. Right after that, you would choose the style, and you can actually change the box of the text. You'll see that in just a few minutes. When you're adding emojis, you do the same thing. You will click outside of the text box you were just in, so anywhere on the picture, and then you just add your emoji. You would choose the preset, the second sample preset. When you choose that preset, it makes the emoji transparent, so it doesn't have that tape looking on the back side of it. And then at this point, you could customize your text box. You could have done that a couple slides back, but if you customize your text box, you can scroll on the screen on the right, all these styles. There's several different styles. Students really like this piece. It's different and it's unique from other apps. So I chose this green one. And you'll see here we have our BookSnap mostly created. I went ahead and added several emojis that represented Cameron looking a little worried, and he's clutching his red duffel bag. You can change the pen width here if you're drawing. A lot of students like to highlight or draw another piece. So at the bottom, suddenly he felt something on his shoulder. Another fantastic option on Seesaw that isn't on other apps for making book snaps that I've found yet is the option to record your annotation. So not only did you create a digital visual image of what you read, of how you perceived it, but you're also going to get to explain yourself audibly. So you would choose the recording option down here at the left-hand corner of the first image. And I love, love, love this new feature of Seesaw. I think it came out in December, but this little arrow here at the bottom right-hand corner, while you're talking, you can use that arrow to point at different places in the text. And I'm going to show you an example. Hopefully it will work. Oh, let's try. Well, it didn't work. Okay, so if you were to play the audio right here in the right-hand picture, you would see the little arrow is going to move as well. And I think that's super exciting for students. And this is fantastic too for students who are K-1, who maybe they didn't write a whole lot, but they pointed to the places in the text, or they pointed to the pictures of how they connected with that text. They can explain themselves audibly. A lot of our kindergartners really love this because they can share with you how they connected to the text. And I think right now would be a fine time for me to add in BookSnaps. We really don't want to add a rubric, or we don't want to put restrictions on students. We want them to connect to the text in a way that's personal to them. Sorry about that. We want them to understand exactly what it is that they receive from the text, and then how they personally connect to the text. When we put parameters on them in a rubric, they seem to try to meet your need. But I love BookSnaps for the fact that they can internalize what that text means to them. So if you go to sharing your BookSnaps, you will add it to your journal, and then add it to it will then be visible on the class feed. So these letters over here represent names. I didn't put names on here, but they would just choose their name, and then they would be able to see it in the feed view. Another wonderful thing about Seesaw is when you go to share the BookSnap. So the BookSnap on the left-hand picture is in the feed view, but options for teachers to share, they would choose these three dots on the bottom here, and then they get all of these different options. One of my favorite about Seesaw that's very unique to Seesaw is the Get the QR PDF, and you will see it right here. As soon as you click that, it'll create a PDF. We did this with a first grade class, and they had their PDFs all around the room, and everyone had an iPad. And they could walk around and take a BookSnaps gallery walk and listen to each other's annotations while seeing them. Just a fun way to share BookSnaps. Another way is you can choose share item, and you can embed the code into your class website. You can copy the link. You can add it to your class Twitter. There's so many different ways. You can save it on your camera roll and add it in another way too. I've seen Class Dojo or the different class blogs. I think this might be our one that we can listen to the audio. Let's try it. So in this passage, you can tell that Cameron is very scared to be at school. He is feeling the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He's clutching his duffel bag really tight. He keeps asking his friend Samantha, like, we have to get out of here. It feels scary. I think something bad is going to happen. And at the very bottom of this page, he feels something on his shoulder. I'm so interested to see what's going to happen next. So you can only imagine for students to be able to share their annotations, you would be able to understand as a teacher, are they getting what they read, or how is the student connecting to the text? Some examples that I've seen are Heather's here on the left. If you'd like to follow her, it's at HMARRS24. She uses Seesaw for BookSnaps. Also, Bonnie McClellan in New York, she is helping her kindergartners use Seesaw to connect with text as well. And if you notice on the kindergartners, they circled their sight words, but if you see their emojis, they're starting to connect. This little, it looks like they're having like some kind of birthday party, and they added the emoji with the little tongue sticking out. So they are starting to make meaning of what they're reading. Angela also shared her first attempt at BookSnaps. Let's see how she annotated here.
I highly recommend checking out the book Rosie Revere Engineer, written by Andrea Beatty. You're going to love this story because it's about a strong character, a little girl named Rosie, and she designs and builds all sorts of things. And on this particular page, her aunt is talking to her, and she says, "Your brilliant first flop was a raging success." And I love that quote. And if you read further along here on the page, you'll notice one of my favorite parts.
So you get the point. But did you see the arrow moving across? That's really great for students to be able to share where they got that meaning from, which part of the excerpt. So here is a BookSnaps how-to video. If you run into trouble and you want to go back to this, it's also on my YouTube channel at Real Talk with Tara M. Martin. And I would love to hear your stories about how your students are connecting to text through BookSnaps. Please do share on Twitter at Tara Martin EDU. And thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I've had people DM me in the middle of the day like, oh my goodness, how do you get this on there? Or how do you change this? Or how do you take the tape off of the back of the emoji? So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at my website there, tarammartin.com. You can look up the hashtag BookSnaps and find all kinds of articles about them. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Tara, we love it. We are so inspired by your idea, and I'm grateful that you've taken the time to join us here today. And I just love too that this reaches all students at all levels. You know, you say on your website from 5 to 95. So any teacher out there can implement this in their classroom. And thanks for coming today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much. It was such a fun time.